Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio. So today, we need to be taking a little bit of a look at a new Slaking. And Slaking's one of those Pokemon that doesn't always have good cards. But I think we might be bucking the trend with this one, ladies and gentlemen. I think this Slaking looks very good indeed. If we start off with the basics, it's got 180 HP. That is huge. That is absolutely gigantic. When this comes out, Mamoswine will have rotated, and let's face it, right? Mamoswine is like the only thing in terms of beefiness that can stand up to this. 180 on a non-GX is ridiculous. That's as high as it gets, unless you're Wailord special. So that's great. And then it's got a retreat cost of 4, which means you can use buff padding, although to be fair, we do have another tool we might want to use instead. More on that in a moment. Weakness to fighting does suck because you've got the non-GX Buzzwole, and Pikachu and Zekrom still great, and people are going to be trying to beat that. So they're going to be playing fighting Pokemon to try and beat that, and that's going to be sad and boo hiss, etc. And you are a colorless Pokemon, which means you don't get any extra tricks. None of this Diancie Prism Star to do extra damage or any of that rubbish. No, ladies and gentlemen, the basics here, look, you got huge HP and a huge retreat cost, which are great. They make you beefy. Outside of that, it's not terribly inspiring. But we've got both an ability and an attack here that are very inspiring, so I think we're okay. Also, while we're here, can we all just be thankful that Slaking doesn't have one of those stupid abilities that stops it attacking, which it's had many times before. Mysterious Treasures, if it's your active Pokemon, flip a coin. If Tails, it can't attack or retreat this turn, although if Heads, it does lots of damage. Then we've got the one from Platinum, which, if it used any attacks during your last turn, it can't attack, so it's an every other turn kind of thing. And then, of course, we had the one from Dragons Exalted, whereby if your opponent's active was a basic, Slaking couldn't attack. Also, how often do you see Slaking actually standing up on cards? The answer is not that often. So anyway, Slaking then, it's got an ability, and according to the lovely David Hockman, who of course provides our translations, it reads, if this is your active Pokemon and it's damaged by an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, put 4 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. This is really good. Now, we've seen things like this before, but it's generally not 4 damage counters. So there was a Quillfish that some people used a little while ago, but that did 2 damage counters. And then also we had the rough-skinned Druddigon, the one from Noble Victories, which did 2 damage counters. We're used to having Pokemon that have this kind of spiky armor style ability. You take damage when you attack. But we're not used to having 4 damage counters being dealt out. That is a lot. This is really good. Now, 4 damage counters isn't going to KO very much. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we need to bring in Giant Bomb. You see, Giant Bomb was a card I looked at, hopefully like an hour or 2 ago. And Giant Bomb, if it's attached to a Pokemon, and it's active, and you would take 180 damage or more, the attacking Pokemon takes 10 damage counters. Except if they're attacking you for Slaking, they take 4 damage counters. If you've got one of these on Slaking, and they do 180 damage to you, i.e. they get a one-hit KO, you do 140 damage, 14 damage counters, just with abilities straight back to them. Tell me, ladies and gentlemen, that doesn't sound like one of the most ridiculous things that you've ever heard. Back in the black and white era, we had A-Spec trainer cards. And A-Spec trainer cards were so good you could only play 1 A-Spec of any description in your deck. If you played 1, you couldn't play any others. They're not like Prism Stars where you can play 1 of each. And Rock Guard was one of them, and Rock Guard did 6 damage counters. We also had Rocky Helmet at the time that did 3. So this was better than Rocking Helmet, just the ability. The ability here is almost as good. It's 67% as good as Rock Guard, and then you add on Giant Bomb as well, and either your opponent isn't one-hit KOing you and they're taking 4 damage, or they are one-hit KOing you and they're taking 14 damage counters, 140 damage. To put that in context, they're doing 180 and they're taking 140. And that's when they attack. You've then got an attack to put on top of this. It's ridiculous. Annoyingly, 140 will KO a lot of non-GXs, but most non-GXs aren't quite doing enough. So Buzzwole, for instance, that's actually the one exception. It's kind of not that bad, because you see, Buzzwole's got 130 HP, but they're hitting you for weakness. So if they're hitting you and you've got 4 prizes remaining, they're not doing 120, they're doing 240 because of the weakness. And that means that they're taking 140 back, assuming you've got the tool. And then they're KOing you, but you're KOing them. You're giving up 1 prize each. I'm all right with this, ladies and gentlemen. This sounds good to me. Annoyingly, though, we got a bunch of stuff like Granbull and White Kyurem. They've got 130 HP, but they're probably not hitting 180. Granbull's going to be hitting 160. And White Kyurem's going to be hitting 160. And that means that you're just not taking full advantage of this. Having said that, the thing we need to keep going back to here, if your opponent isn't hitting 180, then fine, they're not activating the tool, but they're also not getting a one-hit KO, and you've got a really nice attack. In fact, let's talk about the attack. Now, the attack is moderately expensive, by which I mean very expensive. It's a Slaking. 4 colorless energy, 100 damage. Slightly annoying. But you can choose to do 200 instead. 200 for 4 energy and a non-GX is great. But if you do choose to do 200, then during your next turn, you take 100 extra damage. Now, on the one hand, that means you're more likely to be KO'd next turn, nay, probably going to get KO'd. But remember, if your opponent does 180, they activate the tool. So you're doing 200 damage, you're probably giving yourself up next turn, but your opponent is also activating your tool, so you'll be absolutely fine. This is good. And 200 damage will KO a lot, even if you don't have the tool attached. If a Pikachu and Zekrom attacks into you, they take 40, and then you do 200 and KO. Straight away. 200, however, will get a whole bunch of stuff. It will get Dedenne GX, it will get Rayquaza, it will get Blacephalon, it will get any non-GX. 200 damage is great. The biggest issue with this attack really is getting the energy, and we'll have lost double colorless by the time this comes out, which sucks. But you can accelerate energy in any way you like. You can use Malamar. That could work. You can use Welder and Fire Energy because you're not wed to any particular kind of energy, and I think Welder's a great option here. But what I really like is Triple Acceleration Energy. You can attach it to an evolved Pokemon and it provides free energy for 1 turn. But bearing in mind, you're basically putting yourself down to 80 HP next turn. It doesn't really matter what energy's on you, you're probably going to lose it at the end of the turn. Or at the end of your opponent's turn, so go for it, it doesn't matter. And because that only does 3, not 4, how about Tapu Koko Prism Star? Now, it's only a one-shot deal, but you Lost Zone it and attach 1 lightning energy to each of 2 bench Pokemon. So you attach it to a couple of Slaking, and then Triple Acceleration Energy will pay it, and you're good to go. The biggest issue really with Slaking here is going to be the fact that you've got to keep getting Slaking out. It is a stage 2. Now, as long as you've got no Slaking in play, you can use Green Search. That could be fun. But as soon as 1 comes out, you're gone. But then again, people have been playing it with Porygon Z, and that's got an ability, so it can definitely work. Lets you search your rare candy to get your stage 2s. And you can just wait till your last Slaking is KO'd, and then use Green Search to get more. And the energy's a bit of a pain, but as I've said, we got a bunch of options for this. And what you've got is a Pokemon that hits you for 40 when you attack, and then hits 200 when it attacks. The attack is basically one-hit KOing GXs, and with the ability, you could end up KOing some tag team GXs as well, especially if you start adding in Shrine of Punishment to spread a little bit of extra damage around. You should be getting most tag team GXs here, which is ludicrous. and then we bring in the tool. You don't have to use Giant Bomb here. You can use the ability, Shrine of Punishment, and the really good attack, combine it with buff padding, and just go a little bit nuts in terms of I've got 230 HP. Although even then, after you use the attack, you're down to 130, so it's not going to be great. And look, you're not always going to be able to get the tool working. Sometimes your opponent will be playing something like a Faber to remove it. Sometimes they'll be able to make you switch your active Pokemon. And when that happens, remember the tool falls off at the end of your turn. Okay, fine. But I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, there is so much potential here. Yes, it's a stage 2 and that's a little bit scary, but between Giant Bomb, the ability, and a really nice attack, not to mention the triple acceleration energy actually makes this very payable as an attack cost. I really wish it was free energy though, that'd be amazing. I'm a fan of this. I am excited to try this out. I'm going to give it 4 Wassies, and that feels generous, and it might never end up being any good. But you've essentially got a 2 energy attachment, 200 damage attack, and an ability that can work with a tool to do 140 when you get attacked, in a format where tool removal and switching cards, remember we're losing stuff like Guzma, are just not as good. Yeah, I think we can have a go with this. But I want to know what you think, so please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice, and then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about games that don't even have Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.